it's funny. You mentioned coaching Con and introducing you, and I'm sitting here and I thought back to that day. I'm like, man, I got to introduce Eli. And I know that Eli is going to be like, say whatever you say and everything. It'll work out. But I feel like that's almost exactly who you are, because I remember meeting you the first time. We're in Nashville. We're at one of Taylor Welch's events, and we're just happen to be sitting next to each other. And for like 2 hours, I'm sitting there staring to my left. I'm like, is this freaking Eli Wild? Like, he's sitting right next to me. Like, this freaking stud of a sales guy and trainer and coach is just sitting right next to me, learning from the same guy that we're here learning from. And lo and behold, it was you. You said hi to me, and I'm like, shit, I'm going to fall out of my seat because Eli said hi. But then after that, you were just a cool, genuine, real human who wasn't on some like pedestal and all these things that you just naturally think people that you look up to kind of are to an extent. But I think that was one of the defining moments where I was like, man, Eli is the real deal. He's a real human, and he has so much value to bring to people. Like, you are the king of relationships. And it's apparent because of the relationship that I've been able to develop with you, which is one of the things I'm super thankful for. So anyways, Eli, I didn't tell anybody what you actually do out of that, other than like I fangirl over you a little bit. I love you, and I'm happy that we get to be friends. But like, what do you do, dude? Thanks for hopping on. I appreciate you, man, and welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Excited to be here and unpack some gold for the folks.
Let's do it. So sales and conversations and persuasion, like, you've stood on stage and sold a lot of dollars in really valuable courses and experience and things like that. And, talk, maybe take a minute or two, like, where'd you come from? What brought you into that world? What got you to where you're at today? And then let's really just dive in and rip apart on some of the cool things we're working on.
Awesome. Yeah. My entire bio shoved into a few seconds. Grew up really shy, introverted, quietest kid in high school. But even as a young man, I noticed whether it was my mom speaking or the owner of a company speaking, when they said words, people responded very differently. And I had a concept, as we all do, we know this unconsciously, that there's more to communication than just the words. It's who we are. It's our intention. It's our being. It's like the sense of certainty that really makes somebody magnetic, not where they're forcing something on somebody, but somebody's drawn. And I was like, what is that? And, me being so quiet and being a people pleaser and being somebody that was trying to get validation and approval and stuff like that, I recognized early on there were patterns in me that were not very useful in having a good life. And they were always there in relationship and business and asking for what I want, or just kind of hiding behind the scenes and just playing it, being invisible. And then once I started liking girls, I was like, that helped me out of it a little bit. But then once I got a job in sales, where it was like, if you don't sell these people and connect with these people and get their attention and find that gap, you are not going to eat. It was 100%, commission job. So ding, 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 some leverage there. And then, I was on a sales floor with about 300 people selling dental products. And my competitive nature kicked in. Also, the owner of the company, who is like a billionaire, noticed me and how I showed up, and just first one there, last one to leave. And he, I saw not just in what he said, because he was somebody that when he spoke, people listened. We started working out together in the morning, 4 a.m. But I saw also how he lived his life, the congruency, the alignment between his values, his actions, his words, and ultimately his power. And I went really deep down the NLP, hypnosis, persuasion rabbit hole, looking for this one saving grace that I found. And it was this whole concept of patterns. And there can be a pattern of thought, a pattern of feeling, a pattern of emotion. And what drives somebody's communication, what drives that energy behind their sales script, behind, what's happening in this moment where they're getting an objection or resistance, or they feel like they're being, put down, they're taking it personally, is just a pattern of thought. And so this whole saving grace for me was, I'm not broken. It's just a pattern. It's a pattern of thought, feeling, and emotion, and I can recondition that. And so I began to look to separate these ways of being, or these habits, these unconscious habitual patterns that were taking my life in a certain direction, taking my income in a certain direction. And once I believed that it wasn't me, it was a pattern, and a pattern that could be changed, I just knew I needed to train more. Just like going to the gym, I needed to train my psychology and train my language. And so became the foundation for me. Just like people spend hours in the gym, I spent hours in the mental gym, but with the belief that I could change things and change my life. And so that became how I approached sales. And during that time, I found a guy named Tony Robbins who became my one-on-one mentor. I did, about 3,400 of the same presentation for him. Same job he had for Jim Rohn, I had for Tony, going out there speaking about these concepts as an evangelist and selling. I sold about 50,000 people into high ticket programs, and I had an hour to get a group of people. I was a salesperson selling salespeople that knew I was there to sell, that didn't want to be sold. So I never had a warm audience. It wasn't like all these inbound closers getting leads today where people have opted in. I was like forcing my way into a company, talking to people that did not want to be there and talk to me. And I had less than an hour to get all of their money, all of their time, and sell them on the spot. There was no think about it. And so you get good quick.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned everybody with their inbound leads and their calendars getting booked and the calls today. And there's so much opportunity in the outbound and getting it and being good at your craft, like legitimately good. Because you're right. I get somebody who reaches out to me, or I get that cold DM or whatever, and I'm like, oh, you're here. I know what you're doing. I'm in the business. I understand you're trying to sell. So in that environment, like, what's a tip or trick that somebody might be able to take away where I'm going to show up and I'm going to have a conversation with you? I'm here to sell you something. I believe you need this something. How do we make that happen, especially in an online world today where we're not really going office door anymore?
Yeah, well, one, the name of the game is value, but we teach something, and I'll break this down. This POV, the perception of value. And so there's value, there's what is like values, like what do we value? And then there's what's valuable. They're all different things. But in this way, people are overwhelmed these days. Everybody is doing the thing out there. And so what becomes valuable, one, is something that's scarce, something that's unique. And I knew when I was going to these companies, there was other people out there doing the thing. I remember years ago, side note, going out with a gorgeous girl in New York City, and Tinder had just become a thing. And this girl was like a supermodel, and she had and I asked her to see her Tinder thing with all the likes. And she had it was like 2,000 super likes or something like that. And this girl was gorgeous. And every single one of those comments was like, hey, what's up? You're pretty, you're beautiful. And so everybody was like, all these guys, good looking guys, attractive, valuable men were going after her, and they all super liked her. But she chose to go me. And I said, why'd you choose me? What made me stand out? Humor, funniness, the intention, a way of connecting, not trying to get something. And so just like be it in a relationship, making that initial touch, like how do we break through? What is actually valuable? Well, what's valuable to people is what's already valuable to them. What influences people is what already influences them. So I need to have a basic understanding of who I'm reaching for and speaking into their world. And if I'm reaching out to somebody like you, I know you're busy. So I might lead with that. And I know you're busy, but as I'm leading with value, but also going back to what is valuable and what's valuable. When my sales, many things had my sales really jump up as I was working for Tony and doing everything. But when I would sell somebody even on the phone, say a $5,000 or $10,000 program, I used to lean in a lot, trying to prove the worth of the program or discount and compare it to other things. And the offer is really important, but everybody's read that purple Alex Hormozy book. And now even people's great offers are a commodity. Same guarantee, same everything. They all sound the same. And so part of it was my own belief as a salesperson that if somebody spends 30 minutes on the phone with me, that's worth 10 grand. The fourth is a bonus. And so a sense of certainty and connection, and also believing in my own worth without being trying to prove something, but really just being present and genuinely appreciating everything that shows up. Even if somebody was a jerk to me, I'd be like, wow, that's an interesting way to approach that. But I was playful and I didn't take anything personally. And I found these ways to kind of just rip open the moment. And so some of that's the consciousness, some of that's the being trained, but also genuinely wanting to serve and leaning in to the uncomfortable parts. Having one of my highest values be in growth, I was like, well, I'm gonna grow here. And having that sense of sensory acuity and behavioral flexibility, which is presupposed that I know my outcome. And what another one of my saving graces when I was selling was this. I think a lot of people in sales, especially for me when I started out, you read Think and Grow Rich, and it talks about having a definite purpose, having a definite outcome. Like that was saving grace for me. But what happens for people that are even good, me initially when I was good, that was my outcome, was to sell. And if your outcome is to sell, you have commission breath because people feel like that's your outcome. But once I got smart, I said, well, what precedes all action, all decision? Thoughts, feelings, beliefs, experiences. And so I got really clear in my communication. I was like, well, if I get them thinking what I want them thinking, if I get them feeling what I want them feeling and believing what I want them believing, well, that's going to lead to them buying. But if they think, feel, and believe these things, they're not going to buy. So the target of my communication was that. And then once I got good, I could literally change somebody's thoughts. Well, I know you might be thinking that this is a waste of time, and I want to let you know that it's not. So I'm going to, it's not this, it's that. Here's what that means, and then I would do things to get them in that emotional state, changing their focus, changing the meaning, changing their physiology. And then also, if I had not long enough time with somebody in a presentation, I knew that I needed to get them to trust in me, trust in the process, but also trust in themselves. We call this building the buyer. And, one of the things we say, it's like identity ascension. We get them to buy into a state and an identity because all decisions are state dependent. So I'm creating a context where that can happen. And if I have enough time with people, we provide an experience that gets people to change what they think is possible. So you can do a lot in a longer presentation, but in that initial reach out, getting somebody's attention, being a welcomed interruption, because that's what you are. Like it's your mindset about it, it's how you feel about it, and it's staying the course and knowing your outcome, and that outcome not being to get a sale, but to shift a thought, a feeling, or an experience, because that's what provides the insight and the value. And the most classic reframe is, hey, it's not this, it's that, and here's what that means. And these things get people's attention. Also, if I had enough connection, I was able to create a different context to my call, because I read a book called The Challenger Sale in like 2008 when the economy went down. All types of salespeople, the relationship builder, the value giver, they all went down because the economy was a mess. But there was this one type of salesperson with this one identity and how they saw themselves in the call, and their sales exploded. They challenged people's thought process, and the response, the target of the communication, the target of my communication wasn't excited agreement. Oh yeah, that makes sense. No, the target of my communication was them thinking, saying to themselves or saying out loud, wow, I never thought of it that way. Now I've changed their perspective and the conversation is valuable. I am valuable. And so they see value before they even see the offer. And so we're already giving them value in who we're being. And if they did challenge me, I'm not backing down, but I'm not pushing them. They see that I'm unfazed and I'm certain, just like in a relationship, like I'm here. I hold that frame, and can be even a little what we call care-frontational, not confrontational. It's this warm, loving, energy there that's strong, but also aligned with your purpose. And when appropriate, finding that bit of leverage where I can lean in and take a mentor leadership guide role in this conversation to guide you out of a place that you've openly shared with me is not quite where you want to be. And so making sure it's a safe space. So a lot of nuances in the framing, and, these little conversational hooks, like, keep on shifting and up and down and around and stuff like that. But I know where we're going, and I'm enjoying the process, and I believe that I'm valuable, and I provide insight, which to them is valuable. So a lot of little shifts happening in this conversation. And I think that outside of the offer will get people to lean in, which is what we want before they see the offer, because that changes their perception of the value of the offer, regardless of how valuable the offer is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't even think about it that way, where I want to provide so much value in the conversation you're having with me. Like on the other side of this, I'm leaving you better than I found you type mentality, that the thing you buy is actually just the bonus. Like I like that framing of that. And obviously you gave, I don't know, 40 different little subtle things that everybody needs to be doing in there, but that's fantastic. So one thing I've always been fascinated by when it comes to you, what you're doing, what you're working on, is you always have a lot of things going on and you're going bigger and harder. And
Yeah.
there's probably things that we could have a conversation around, maybe that's not great and we're not focusing, but at the same point, like you're always on fire and going hard. Like you wake up every day ready to tackle that day in that world. So, when I think about the average person coming and listening to this, we're thinking about the health, the wealth, the relationships of our world, of just our being, if you will. Like, tell me a little bit about your day, like, the fitness side, the mental side, like all of those components, the work side. And then I want to jump into some of the projects that you're working on and everything there. But like, how does Eli be Eli with the energy and the ferociousness that you seem to show up with every day to go win?
I just turned 47, and so it's changed so many times in my life. And just like a young Hermosi, I should just get up and do the thing. I've had times where it was a long uh, morning routine thing, but now it's like it's really based on what I need. And I find if I do push it too hard, or even working out or anything, I feel disconnected from my body. So I do. It's almost like this form of breathing and Tai Chi in the morning to feel more integrated, more connected to my heart. And I know this sounds super woo woo, but I really want to feel integrated at this point in my life. And of course, I want to be successful. I want to make an impact, but to have it be me, like all of me, who's fully in my experience of life. And then grace, like trusting what shows up, having a playful relationship with life and people and all the good and the bad. I think I don't know if I'm becoming more mature. I don't know what it is, but I'm okay with what is. And I want to like deeply feel into each moment as it's passing with, like it's never coming back, whether it's good or bad. I want to be in it. And so taking time each morning for the three S's: stillness, silence, and solitude, and just really in the being of it. And I've unconsciously trained a lot of these skills, which was a thing, and I'm still working on skills. I've not mastered all of anything. There's always further to go in everything, but into the thing of a skill or a career or wealth creation or whatever, but really into the depth of myself, so I can have more of me to put into whatever that thing is, be it a relationship, be it my fitness. And fitness doesn't mean I'm killing myself, but to be fully present with what I'm doing and feel the sensations in my body, and to learn something or to do something for the thousandth time, but still find something new in it and appreciate something new in it. So I'm just feeling like this gratitude and this joy. It's almost spiritual for how I'm living my life and how I'm approaching everything, and taking that time each day and in the morning and thinking about the magic of the day and what I want to create, and the fact that I can create something of my day, and like this day is never coming back. It's just like I think there's just an appreciation for each moment that hopefully spills into what I'm doing, to the point where other people feel it. So that I think that's it for me at this point. This point, I don't. That's not quite like this routine, rigid thing, though. I
No,
go for a walk in the morning, and that's part of the process. But that's it.
yeah, and I think, in today's day and age, there's so many people out there suggesting you do this thing, you do that thing, and here's the perfect morning routine and all that stuff. And listen, I'm going to click, it's the good clickbait of what's your perfect morning routine. Don't get me wrong, I understand it.
Yeah.
But everybody's got the thing that works for them. I go to the gym 6 days a week, but I only hard work out 3 or 4. The other 2 or 3 are more like an active recovery, because it's my time, like in the morning before the world is going, that I get to just think and do that process. And if I'm used to waking up at 5:30 anyways, I can either lay in bed and stare at a ceiling, or I can go and just move and get ready to rock. And then maybe today's a sauna day, maybe today's a cold plunge day, maybe today I'm just going to make some good coffee and just sit and chill in the dining room or the kitchen until I'm ready to go and start working. I don't know, it depends on how I feel, but
Yeah.
that consistency is, I'm going to get up and I'm just going to start moving because I feel better after I move. So I think everybody's got whatever works for them, but there's such a big population out there that they're doing the same thing, but it isn't working for them, but they haven't made that change yet. Like you mentioned earlier, the pattern, like just figure it out. There's a pattern going on and makes those incremental changes to the pattern until you're in a completely different trajectory, right?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
got to do what's working for you. There's no perfect way.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a bunch of injuries in my life too. And I work with a coach a lot of mornings, and it's basically, he like watches me breathe and things like that. And I've experienced like a lot of tension in my body, which has created sensory motor amnesia, where basically you can push and push and push with your mind to the point where your body becomes numb and shuts down, and you can keep on pushing and you don't even feel it because people are so disconnected from their body. And I spent like, the better part of 15 years on the road. So I've got a lot of that tension in my body, and I don't even feel it as pain because it's like I'm numb to it. And so I'm getting back in touch with more of me. So there's more of me to fully be into this next iteration of my life. And so you see a lot of these people that are like, you know, just they watched a lot of Hormozy videos and are just grinding, and I think it works for him, but there's a lot of people I see it not working for them, and they're disconnected, and they're going through a phase, and there's a cost to it.
And
So I want to bring more the humanness to the conversations and all of that. So it's, the coaching industry, all that, it's going through a phase right now, and it's good, it's necessary, and I'm all for it. But there'll be some people that will end up sabotaging their success. You see the pattern. You just see the pattern in
oh
people.
yeah, absolutely. And listen, it's way easier to wake up and grind and just do the thing at 30 years old
Yeah.
than it is at 45.
Yeah.
So we're in 15 years, we'll see how that's trending for some of the people that just say wake up and grind.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents. But as we think about this, and for me, you've always been somebody that you're always learning, and I always get to learn from every time I get to be around you or listen to you or talk to you, your content, your social media, your courses, everything that you're doing. So from that side of things, like, what are you working on these days? Like, what are some of the things that people can go get from you? What are some of those outcomes that maybe you can help people create with what you're working on?
Well, so many things, but it's like there's a lot of really famous people that we're helping them with their like communication internally, their company, their challenges, their events. A good friend of mine, I will mention this one guy's named Jeremy Miner, who's brilliant in sales. He's helped me with stuff, and we coach him one-on-one on his presentations. And he's like doubled his closing rate, one-to-many conversations. And a big part of it is we install these frames, and we can look at people's seminars, events, like their content online, and we can install these frames into what they do. And when I show it to anybody, they're like, and if you're a Tony Robbins fan, they're like, okay, now I understand why Tony gets what he does. And Tony was my mentor, and so I understand this stuff deeply. And so we boiled down, to maybe like about a dozen frames. And if people are interested in it, they can just comment, send me a message on Instagram that says frames, and they'll get my favorite 10. But oftentimes, if you see me speak on stage, sometimes I talk about going to an event with Jordan Belfort, selling against him, and I took away all his sales because I installed a series of frames in the audience that put him in a certain box. And only he's smart enough to have known what I did, but I framed the audience in a way where the outcome of how they saw the POV, or what we call the perception of value, it was all towards me. So I got all the sales in the room. And I've been doing this to the tune of, now 9 figures in sales. And so whether it's a sales call, I could do it. But specifically now we really focused on people putting this in their challenges, into their content, and it really frames in a beneficial way to the speaker the perception of what's valuable based on the values and the value that we provide. So it's ninja, and it's something nobody else has seen before. Over the next couple of years, more people will steal our stuff. We're probably the most stolen from company out there, but because we've just never gone big. But this year we're starting to market, and a lot of people. You'll start seeing these frames everywhere, as they are going to be the new thing amongst the top 1%, and they'll trickle down for sure.
I'm gonna go comment on a random Instagram post because I need all these frames now. So, you framed it well for me.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have the lead magnet done before you get up there. So
Cool.
that's we're working on that. A lot of group presentations, seminars. I'm speaking a lot. I mentioned to you earlier that we've got a few new sales courses coming out that'll be high level for the audience, for the industry, and just really shifting the way that people sell. But our biggest thing is working on, group presentations like keynotes, speeches, selling one to many. type stuff, webinars and all of that. That's our sweet spot. But the sales stuff is just it's just so easy to improve somebody's sales.
So we've talked through like how can people change and kind of better themselves, but if somebody wanted to reach out to you and be like, "Hey, I want you on my stage or help me with my stage or my online presentation," like what does that look like? Should they reach out to you on Instagram? Like where's the best place to go? But also who are you looking to go help at this point in time and kind of help them grow that sales side of things?
Well, it's this week I've booked a few with some really known people. But one guy, there's some guys, some young guys that make really good money with ecom, and they're doing their first event in Dubai. So I'm even going to speak at it. We wrote out their pitch, we designed it. They have to perform it in front of me. So it's amazing when people do these events. Like you've been to some, and the owner of the company, they spend millions on marketing, and they have the famous speakers come in, and then they do the pitch. And I'm like, did you practice it? They're like, no. They're still working on their slides like the day of the event, and they expect to do like $2 million. I'm like, well, do you think it'd be better if you practice it? If you practice it with me one on one? If you practice with me one on one, I gave you feedback, and it's like okay. And then I rewrote your pitch, and then we did it again and again and again until it's perfect.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. And so that's how we double people's sales. So I tell people it's like if you're doing a webinar, a group presentation, a challenge, like there's key frames that should be installed in the audience before they see the pitch. There's key things in the pitch that make it so that people are still learning. Because when people pitch or get pitched, there's a part of their brain that's resistant, but when they're learning, there's a part of their brain that's open. So we have learning bits inside of the pitch. And even with the testimonials, most people do them completely the wrong way. We call them embedded case studies, where they're still learning inside of it and there's storytelling inside of it. So people stay super engaged in the pitch. And for some people in the audience, they say their favorite part of the entire seminar or event was the pitch because there was so much value in the pitch. Like people are actually learning. So the way that we do it is it's just totally different. And I've never shown it to anybody, and they weren't just like, this is so much better than anything I've ever seen. There's a very famous marketer who's now does these big events, and he's focused on online selling. They wanted me to come, but I'm afraid he's going to like take my stuff. So I'm not going. I won't mention his name, but that's what he's focused on. And the audience is really big on this online selling. Be it challenges or events now, or webinars, or in person. So we basically have a process. We do it all in Notion docs where there's like the syntax, and then there's like we script out each bit. And then we hop on calls, like with a Jeremy Miner, like we will rehearse each part that's so critical. And then it just changes the entire flow and it feels better for everybody. But I tell people, it's like, this is the one shot where you have money to make money. Let's rehearse this.
Yeah.
And then like have me rewrite some of these things. If it sounds weird to you, probably is a little weird. Like, let me rewrite it for you and let's do it. And then like, let's do it a dozen times together on a Zoom call. Like, and it's just night and day. And I'm like, and people were like, I can't believe I was going to go out on a stage and do it like that. Not that it was even that bad, but compared to what it could be and what it needs to be, it's a pretty big gap. So we help on that.
All right. Amazing. Well, where is the best place for people to reach out and learn more about Mr. Eli Wilhide?
It's Instagram's good. We're just starting to do social media, but there or Facebook or, if people are interested, it's me and my assistant. We're a really small company, and it's just support@wildinfluence.com. And people want all of our information, or even our website is wildinfluence.com. Tons of free stuff on there. Instagram, we got links in the bio, and we got all the stuff. And then we're pretty easy to engage with. Just when people get on our email list, you can just respond to an email and my assistant sees it, and we book stuff off of that every week.
All right. Awesome. Well, Eli, I appreciate your time. I know everybody watching in also appreciate your time. This was fantastic. Lots of pieces. Like, guys, rewatch this 2 or 3 times and take notes and just apply 1 or 2 things you got out of this, and your life will be infinitely better starting tomorrow. Eli, you are the man. I appreciate your time as always. And I feel like I learned 5 things out of this. So if nothing else, you helped enrich my day, bud.
Boom. Thank you, Steve.